Good afternoon to most of you. Oh, you know what? Hold on. I went live without checking to see if I was. Oh, yeah, I'm connected here. Audio. Oh, okay, it's using the right mic. Okay, good, good, good. Happy Eurovision 2025 Grand Final Day, if it's happy for you. Give me a moment to sip my water. As usual, I thought I was planning well in advance, and then time got away from me. There's something funny going on with my hair. Oh, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna wear my hat. I got this. See if you can make it out. I got this from the Portuguese delegation. They did a little meet and greet with Napa a few days ago. Got to ask the band a few questions, and yeah. So I think this is a better look for right now. We'll do a little bit of that, and then, oh yeah, there we go. I quite like this. Um, so yeah, it's grand final day. It's a very interesting year-end grand final for many reasons, but I definitely think that one of them should probably have adjusted this a bit more. One of them is the fact that the winner this year is not obvious, or maybe it's obvious to you. Let me know what your thoughts are. But otherwise, I look forward to diving into the discussion with you folks. And I'll say hello to a few people. Hello to Lucas. Lucas, you've been in the arena a few times this week, I believe, or maybe it was just the one time. So tell me how did you like the show? And hello to Samara. Nice to see you again. Um, and yes, please send me some questions. One thing I should do is pull up the running order because I know that a lot of people tend to ask questions around the running order. So I'm going to save that now. Uh, Obligatory shout out to Eurovision World, who do an excellent job at providing all the stats that we need and arranging it in such an organized and easy to follow way. If I do that, no, we need to add an overlay like that. Running order, there we go. And this should be coming up in a little bit. There we go. There's our running order. Um, Lucas saying evening previews. It was a funny week overall. And there we go. There's the question. Who gets benefited the most by running order? Well, I mean, I think everything that's from like 20th onward, or even, I mean, uh, there are a few others, but this producer's choice thing is ridiculous, if you ask me. I mean, great for those of you who feel like a winning song needs to have the most ideal spot in the running order. I'm gonna pull this one up as well so that everybody knows where the draw was. So let me add that final draw. Also from Eurovision World. Let me throw that up. Okay. So yeah, half the acts are decided by the producers where they go exactly in the running order. Something that they've been doing since last year. I personally am not a fan of that because it's far too deliberate. But as for who benefits the most from the running order, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that Sweden is in an optimal spot. And did Sweden draw? Yeah, they drew producers decides. What a surprise. Um, France is a favorite too. France is going quite late in the show. Um, People who are really knowledgeable about the stats and all that, let me know if I have this down correctly, but I believe that there hasn't yet been a winner from 25th or 26th. Um, Now, if you ask me, I would like for that to change today because we have Albania in the 26th slot. And more I'm speaking to people who say that they're really into Albania's song. I think the question is natural about what the jury appeal is there. But I don't know. I'd like to think that Albania has a shot to win. Who has impressed you most with their staging? Switzerland, by far, hands down. I mean, maybe it doesn't have the same kind of wow impact on everyone, but I just think it's like very tasteful, suits the song very well. The lighting, the warmth of it, it transitions to this kind of more colder light when we get into the more chaotic bridge. Yeah, I think that Switzerland has the best staging by far. Kyrie, yeah, Kyrie. Oh, is that a reference to Blanca Paloma? If so, then I'm very happy about that. What are your expectations for the jury scores of Norway, Luxembourg, and Germany? I don't like at an earlier stage, I probably would have said that Norway would be not like a jury favorite, but up there with the jury, like potentially jury top 10 or like left-hand side. And I think that could still happen, but I don't know. I just think that when compared to some of the other songs, it seems like there are a few that are um, a bit more well-rounded. I think it could still happen. Uh, Luxembourg, I would say it's a bit of a question mark. I don't know if the juries are going to buy into the overly kish uh, aesthetic of it all. And then Germany's might be low. That's fine with me. Germany has a pretty solid song this year. It might not have the best vocal performance to back it up. We've got, oh no, that's wait, oh no, that's just my skin. Anyway, yeah, not the best vocal performance to back it up. It's not bad either. I just think that it's not necessarily at the level of the other performers. But I mean, maybe the jurors will appreciate the fact that it is a modern take on a dance song, and it's considerably more modern than the rest of the songs that we have this year. Um, Austria's spot is not as bad as many may think. Their competition is not around them when Sweden and France back to back is intense. I mean, so I honestly don't know if I know that this is one of those theories that like when you have acts that are back to back, then they like draw votes away from each other. Um, but I mean, I can think of at least one example, uh, 2007, where first and second performed back to back. I'm pretty sure, and so they got the most points over everything else. Um, so yeah, I don't really know if that's a factor, but I mean, I suppose that when we're looking, I'll pull this up again. When we're looking at the first half, where's Austria? Yeah, Austria is a ninth. Um, we have had winners come from the ninth spot before. The most recent would have been Sweden 2023. I don't think that Austria is going to have that much of a lead with the juries, and I've honestly had a hard time thinking of Austria as a winner personally. But if it wins, then I wouldn't be mad either. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't think that the UK or Iceland are going to, if this theory holds up, that like a song around these ends up being, having more of a wow factor than it draws votes away. I don't think that either of those will be the case. So yeah, uh, let's see. I think Italy 2015 were last and won the televote. That is true. They did win the televote and that's actually interesting because that year was the only time that we had 27 acts in the grand final, which is very long. 26 is already too much in my opinion. I wish that it was more like a 20 song grand final, but that doesn't happen because the show grew and grew over the course of the years, and there wasn't always the intention for there to be semifinals, and that ended up being sort of like a compensation for having so many countries that were interested in Eurovision. But yeah, that is true what you said. Um, are we going to see much closer points distributions this year? It feels like many more songs all fighting for the top spots. I mean, definitely, there are definitely a lot of songs that seem to be more televote songs, and who knows how that will reflect in the voting. It could mean that a lot of the songs are a lot of the points are kind of dispersed, but then there's still one that ends up raking them all in, kind of like what we've seen with the jury. One thing to remember about the score is that the number of points is fixed, and so you can't like because it's a fixed number. The way that the points are distributed are a reflection of preference, not necessarily the song's value. It's something I know it's something I've said before, but it's something that I feel is worth repeating because people will often say like, how can this song be twice as good as this other song? And it's like it's not really how it works. And it's also important to remember that this is reflected differently with the jury and televote because the jury votes or they rank every song from first to last. The televote does not. The televote has 20 votes that they can throw all at one song or spread it out through several songs. A lot of people tend to throw their or at least like concentrate their votes. Some, throw them all behind one. But yeah, it is possible that there could be more distributions. The running theory for the last few years has been that because the juries are out of the semifinals, there aren't as many jury songs, quote unquote, that are in the final that would like be claiming higher jury points, and so they're concentrating around single songs. This will be the third time in which we can see whether or not that's true, and if it does prove to be true, then maybe it will be time to rethink the having the juries out of the semifinals. And I know that there have been a number of heads of delegations that have raised that as well, and they say that they want to see them come back. Who do you think are the ones who most improved from the national finals performances? I'll say Albania and Luxembourg. I think those are good choices. I don't think Albania's was ever particularly like bad. I just think that Festivali Këngës is a very different show. Staging at a show like that, especially when you include a live orchestra, it has a different thinking behind it. And also, like, they don't have anywhere near the same budget as the entire production of Eurovision that's funded by 37 public broadcasters, 36 public broadcasters, and one private one to be exact. But you know what I mean. And like Luxembourg, again, Luxembourg is very much not my thing, but I 100% agree that they did great things from a technical point of view with the staging. So yeah, as for my own choice, well, it's not in the final, but I think that Croatia was a substantial elevation. I think that they while it wasn't perfect staging, they made it look interesting, and I wouldn't have necessarily been upset if that had advanced, but yeah, that it had a very low starting point and it was elevated quite a lot. Um, let me I'll pull this up again to see if there's another one that comes to mind. Um, I mean, some people might say Malta. I think Malta got the colors down really nicely. I quite like that. I can't really say I'm crazy about the rest of it. Ukraine's another one. Maybe not the biggest elevation, but it's Ukraine tends to have impactful staging. Lithuania, I think that's going to be my choice. I really like, even though conceptually it's the same. I think the technical details as far as planning out the shots, the blocking of the band, and I love those flashes of light in the bridge. I think that was awesome. What else are you saying? Um, okay, so we've already covered that. I wonder how the show would go if there was still only one show and all 37 entries were put in one big show. It would take forever, and I don't know how many people would watch it. Who knows? Um, talk about Palestine. I mean, well, one thing that I'd like to do, I mean, I was saving this kind of for the end, but maybe I will put this in now. But I would like for everybody to today, if you're watching Eurovision, to please um, sorry, I had to. I'm opening this video at the same time. Oh yeah, I can't actually put in a comment. Okay, so then maybe I'll put this in after. But today, if you are watching Eurovision, please at least try and find someone who's in Palestine and listen to them. I have a few links that I'm going to be sharing. Maybe, oh, you know what? I can put them in the description. That's what I'll do. Hopefully I hope that it updates. But I've linked to, I think it's 8 personal accounts and then 1 group account. And just listen to a bit of what they're going through. It is unacceptable that we're at this point. Okay, all right. Well, I don't think I'll be able to update it in the description, but in any case, I will give those links to you. I'll try putting them here. Let's see if that works, and then maybe I can pin it. Uh, yeah, okay, I don't think that's working. All right. Um, yeah, so like it is, the situation has become worse and worse. And while I understand that people love that Eurovision is an escape from the horrors of the world, I think that we owe it to people who are suffering right now to at least be a witness to what they're going through. If only I could get the links in as I planned. I think it was split into two comments. Yeah, I see what happened. But in any case, we'll figure out a better solution. Um, and yeah, I'll go back to these questions. Jade Funky Coffin saying, "I hope the underdog win to Estonia, Finland, or Austria." I'm curious about how the jury will look at Estonia. Constructa apparently is a fan, and in some ways I'm not surprised, but I can't say that I agree with her on a lot of things. I don't necessarily agree with her on that, but I did really like her new. It's not a triptych. It's kind of like like because the first one was called triptych, but I think the other one has more than four pieces. In any case, she did a new EP recently, and it also has video like her first one that included Incorpore Sano. I only got the opportunity to watch it once, so I need to watch it again and kind of break it apart. Who are the countries that you think can be both top five in the juries and top five of the televote? I think that Sweden has a chance. I'm gonna have to pull them up again. Um, let's see. I do think that Sweden has a chance because it's catchy, it's well performed. Um, France as well. I think there is going to be kind of like a tugging on the heartstrings effect that will work with the audience, and so I do think that a victory is within reach of France. I just don't see them coming first in any regard. Um, Possibly the jury, but uh, that would be last. And then like I'm hoping for Albania as well. Apart from those three, I can't really think of anyone who's going to be top five with both. 16fi thinks Ukraine is a downgrade. Well, I don't particularly agree. I think again the problem with Ukraine is that sometimes they do too much. In this case, they did do too much, but no, I still think I think it's cleaner than what we saw at Vidbeer. I never got into Malta. It's so extra and not in a good way. Yeah, me and you both. Do you think Greece can be a surprising jury winner? I'd like to think that's possible. There has been a point in time in which I thought that Greece had winner potential. I don't necessarily feel that way anymore, and it's not because I think that they've done anything poorly, but it's just more so that it doesn't like have that wow factor that some of the others do. I'm with you, Groot. Belgium was one of my favorites this year. Speaks very much to my tastes. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that there were issues with the staging in particular. I think they could have gone for something simpler, but it is what it is. Do you think that Israel's televote will be greater than that last year's? Could be. That's all I'll say. Hello from Armenia. Let me know what you think of your entry this year. I hope to see more funny entries in 2007 next year. I feel like those years don't need to be duplicated. They're permanently in Eurovision's history, so I would be okay if we moved on from that period. Um, Enough with the boring top five or last place predictions. Tell me, who do you think will get mid-table placing 13th? All right, which entry screams 13th place? Let's see. Uh, I told Harry, he is still part of Eurovox, but we worked together when we were both part of Eurovox. He's a big fan of Iceland, and I told him that it screams 24th in the grand final, and so that one I'm going to stick to. 13th, which one is going to be the most mid, as the kids say? Um, Maybe I don't want to say Denmark because I really like Denmark. But I mean, not like 13th is a bad place. Maybe yeah, I could see like maybe Norway or Spain. Yeah, Spanish fans won't be happy about that, but that's my guess. Um, I think Ukraine's staging is an upgrade solely because the backing vocalists are much more prominent and not the older Eurovision approach of just sort of having them on the side and just standing there. I agree with that, and I really like especially that beginning where the singer has the light in her hand and she is kind of playing with it and then throws it to the sky. Yeah, I think they've done that really well. BBT saying, I have a sneaky suspicion Armenia is coming top 10, which would be two in a row for them. It is really elevated, and the rock voters don't really have anything else. Finland, Lithuania. I think like the dedicated rock audience, they'll go for Lithuania, and I don't think they have anything else. Armenia, I don't think they would see it as much of a rock song. A lot of people would say something like Imagine Dragons because of the heavy distortion and the triplets and those like prominent pop hooks. I definitely see that makes sense. To me, it ventures a little bit more into like the stock music territory. I have to say I'm not a huge fan of the song, but who knows? I mean, it's definitely visually elevated. I like the kind of ghosting effect that they have with him. Kind of reminds me of what they did in 2016. Now that I think of it, I had only made that connection right now. Um, but yeah, um, yes, that's an AIA reference. Do you expect nil point? And if yes, how many? I'm scared for two countries in particular with the televotes. Tell me which two, because I don't. There isn't one that screams 0 points to me. Um, I mean, for some people, maybe it would be like Germany, but I don't know. It's been such a streaming success, and it's got a cool vibe. Um, let's see if we're looking really early in the running order. Hmm. Honestly, I don't know. I don't think there is a nil pointer. Um, but who do you think? Um, 16 if I feel like this year there's going to be a big split in jury votes between France, Austria, Switzerland, and televotes between Sweden, Finland, and Estonia. Could be, yes. I mean, I still have my reservations about Austria, but I definitely see it being more on the jury side. Um, excuse me. I much rather see Lithuania instead of Armenia up that high. Lithuania sets a much more effective atmosphere and is also vocally a lot better. And I can see juries actually liking the vocal a lot. Could be. I think the one thing that Lithuania has going against them is that it is a bit repetitive. The tavo tavo, and like obviously it's used to an effect. It's an effect that I appreciate, but I just know that for some people, that level of repetition is a big turnoff. So yeah, I mean that's one that I could see coming 13th, but I would like to feel like that it could do better. Jumper the Plumber saying, my 13th is Malta. I hope Malta finishes lower than that. Ukraine is screaming nil point. Could be, again. And the the tabloids will love that for sure. Germany is too good to get zero. Yeah, I hope so. Aburki, I'm afraid UK. Okay, so another one for UK. More for the UK. I mean, is it is it just because it's the UK and because it's happened so frequently? Yeah, I mean, who knows? You know what? I think that now that I think of it, that's probably the most likely one. And they're also early in the running order, aren't they? Early-ish. Um, yeah, eighth. Yeah, okay. Um, could Iceland be a jury zero? Yeah, that's possible. I think so. Maybe. I mean, the thing is, we have all the Nordics in this final, so maybe one of them will, I don't know, show some brotherly love. But yeah, it's possible. That I think is probably the highest contender for zero with the jury. I have a feeling that Malta will get surprisingly low televotes too. Malta tends to have a disadvantage because they don't have too many friends. That and they rarely send songs that are competitive. Um, this year, I think they've kind of ridden they've ridden a few waves that don't necessarily have to do with the quality of the song. Although I will say that at least like Miriana can sing. I don't doubt that, but they have one of the gimme, they have one of the more gimmicky songs this year. Um, oh yeah, with respect to Iceland, yes, we may ensure that they get two or three. Oh well, actually, you know what? I mean, I know you're asking about the jury, but this reminds me a lot of Ipadunk. I'm sure you would know what the differences are, but like, and then there's another style of music in Norway that also kind of has that, just kind of silly party vibe. So with respect to televotes, I think they're set with at least getting a few neighborly points. Um, I see how France could be a potential winner, but do you agree that Switzerland will take away many of their votes? Um, I think maybe with the jury, uh, televote is a bit of a question. I would love to see that. I would love to see Switzerland win again. I won't come to Switzerland 2 years in a row. My bank account won't tolerate it, but I will give them a thumbs up if they do. So many Balkan and Eastern countries are not in the final. Where would these points go? My guess would be Albania if it was not last in the running order. So I mean, I don't know. It's possible. I know as well that there. Well, I don't want to dive too much into like the cultural tensions. I think that that could play a factor, but yeah, maybe Greece too. Again, like this is an area that I don't have a lot of knowledge in. Maybe I'm just making too many assumptions because of the geography. But yeah, it's a good question. I mean, maybe it could be Albania. Estonia zero from the juries? I don't think so. I think it'll get a few. I mean, not that it really carries over from one to the next because it's a different set of songs, but they either won their jury. Tommy Cash either won the jury vote or came very close to winning it in Estilal. I can't remember what it was. Um, People see something in that song. I think Latvia will come last. No, I don't think so. I think Latvia Latvia might be a contender for bottom five, which is a tragedy because it's so beautiful to me, at least. But yeah, I would like to think that it has some potential. I had a number of people from back home actually say that they quite liked Latvia, which I don't know. Maybe I mean I don't know how many of them are actually going to be voting in the show, but maybe some rest of the world points for Latvia. Hello, I'm hoping for Finland to win. I thought it was amazing. However, the relatively low Spotify numbers really concern me. Well, I mean, fortunately, when it comes to Eurovision, it's all about what you deliver on the stage, right? And that's all that happens. There's no other factors, absolutely none. But no, if Finland wins, I'll be quite happy about that. Um, I personally do think that there is some truth to the British tabloid narrative that the rest of Europe just doesn't want to vote for them, considering how they often get bottom of the barrel scorers. My theory with the UK is that everyone has an artist from the UK that they really like. And so when they tune into Eurovision, they're kind of expecting something of that caliber, and it just never is. Or at least like, I mean, Sam Ryder at least like stood up to that. He put on something that put on a performance that nobody was going to forget. Um, because that's honestly like when I think back to the very first Eurovision that I watched, which was 2018, that's kind of what I was thinking. I was like, oh yeah, United Kingdom, they've got a really established entertainment industry. I have dozens of artists that I listen to from the United Kingdom. They'll probably send something that's really competitive, and it was Storm by Suri. So yeah, I mean I I ended up actually kind of respecting how Suri handled that situation because if you don't know, there was a stage invader and it actually kind of helped because it made the kind of you know cliche lyrics suddenly have meaning because she was proving it in the moment. But yeah, I don't think that it's really a matter of people just refusing to vote for the UK if they like the song. I think it's just like there's always a higher expectation that's hard to match, and I think that that might also affect some other countries like Spain. But I mean, it isn't to say that I think that with the exception of Yaya, I don't think that there's anything that Spain has sent recently that warrants more televote points than they got. Pardon me. Um, Neil Era saying, hoping that Albania and Finland can come top five with the jury. Yeah, me too. And I think that that would at least put either of them in a position to win. Unpopular opinion: if Cyprus was sung by a female, it would have went through. I don't think so. I just don't think that hush, hush, hush. Like I don't think that's a good chorus. I think I don't know. To me, it was quite annoying. UK is going for zero televote because the song is trying too hard. And what is the audience outside the UK really? I mean, because that is what a lot of people say. Like it's very West End, and if you're into musicals and all that, maybe that's the audience. And I mean, seems like there are all kinds of those people who, at least try and get into Eurovision. But yeah, it's definitely not for me. Um, say I am not fun of I'm not fun of seeing the same old catchy trash songs, so I prefer Albania, Greece, Israel, or Lithuania. Um, yeah, it's everybody's got their favorites. Ice and Sog could easily be popular here in Sweden. Hoping for a shock win. Who would you like that to be, David? Praying for healthy juries tonight. Maybe with some prebiotic soup that you're going to feed them. What's quite the name. Lithuania is one of the few songs that sounds like the studio version exactly, and the staging is amazing. 100% agree. Why is Poland rated so low when Justina's song is doing so well on YouTube? I think the reason why Justina's song is doing so well on YouTube is because Polish songs tend to track. There tends to be quite a large audience for it. There's a lot of excitement for the fact that she was a returning Eurovision artist who had people had wanted her to come back to Eurovision for quite some time. Um, I do think that that could translate into a strong televote. I just don't think that it's because some people are calling it a winner, and I don't personally see it. I don't think it would be a very good representative of where Eurovision is if it did win, but that's just me. Do you think Netherlands will place top 10? Could be. I do think that that one is probably going to be lopsided. I think that the jury's going to get behind it more than the televote. Oh, this is interesting. There seems to be a vocal and passionate fan base for Zierm in Serbia. It would be nice to see Albania getting major points from the Serbian public, since you can't downvote the entry, only upvote. Um, I don't think it's too helpful to look at NF jury scores to predict proper ESC jury scores. Yeah, I mean, here's something to here's a hot take. All of this analysis that we do is worth very little. We're all just going off of vibes at this point. And I mean, like sometimes you can find patterns and things and think like, oh yeah, this could happen and that. But then by the time we actually get the results, then all of a sudden everybody will have that hindsight, the clarity of hindsight, and then be like, oh yeah, it was because of these reasons. And then next year we're going to be looking at the reasons that we theorized for how this score came out, and then applying it to that show, and then there'll be other things, and then we'll come up with other theories, and then the cycle will just continue forever and for always. Um, there are certainly people in the Balkans who wouldn't vote for Albania just because that can be an offset of that can also be an offset by the diaspora vote. So you're saying like the diaspora, the Albanian diaspora that is outside of the Balkans would offset the lack of votes that they could be getting from other countries in the Balkans. I'm not sure if I'm making sense. Do you think the juries will take the odds into account again? I don't think that they do. I think that is a fan like superstition. I honestly I think that people really overestimate how much the jurors are in the know of what's happening. That is like the fans are the ones that are following the odds. I mean, I'm sure that there are other people who might not necessarily be Eurovision fans, but they're still in the habit of betting. And so they might be looking at the odds. They might be listening to what some of the commentary is. But if somebody wants to pull up an example that points to this idea that the juries are looking at the odds and making their voting like basing their voting off of that, then please show it to me, because otherwise I have no reason to believe it. I'm hoping for a good result for Lithuania. I just can't really see it, and I wish to be wrong. I mean, I don't think a lot of people would have seen it when it was announced, but I think that they've made all the decisions that they needed to with what they were given. I think that the song itself, um, like being a rock performance, the way that they approached it was a bit ordinary at Eurovision.lt. But with this, there's such strong development. They have, clear moments that stand out. Like I really love that slow push in on the lead singer's eyes. I didn't take the time to learn their names, but the guy who sings, the push in on his eyes. Again, those bursts of light in the breakdown, and then the way that everything just kind of explodes in the end. I think it's doing things really well. Of course, there have been plenty of entries that have been fully visually fleshed out that have been dismissed in the past. But I think that this is at least, I think that there's definitely a clear audience for this, and I have confidence. I have confidence that it will do decently with the televote. Ooh, would you agree that Sama 1995 is a massive all-timer? I love Sama. That is without a doubt my favorite Polish entry. I know that it's very divisive. Some people like to some people it's just like screeching and a bit cacophonous, but I love Sama. It's such a vibe. Um, there's a reason that it was in that compilation video. If you know what that compilation video was about, yeah. Will Australia still compete next year? I think that people might be a bit preemptively concerned. Uh, Maybe there's a better way of putting that, but you know what I mean. Like I think that it might be a bit too soon to be thinking about these kind of things. Um, what we never found out, because before 2023, they kept renewing their contract, and then we never found out if they had ever signed a new contract that would guarantee their participation up to a certain point. And so I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means that they're leaving the window open for them to bow out without any penalty, or if they just have decided that Australia's in this and we will treat them like any other participating country, where it's like if they're in, they're in, if they're out, they're out. So yeah, like don't worry about that too much. I think that a lot of people like Australia is one of the ones that a lot of people are talking about. Even if there were, certain issues with the performance, it still seems like people were disappointed that it didn't make it through. So, that still says that people are excited about what Australia is bringing. And even in the years that I haven't liked Australia's song, I still like admire it. I don't think there's ever been a year where I'm like really put off by what Australia is doing. So yeah, don't prematurely shoot down the hopes and dreams of Australia to one day win Eurovision. Um, Sweden has a way stronger Ipadunk song. I, you'd classify that as Ipadunk? Maybe I have a very different idea of what Ipadunk is. Um, on Poland's views, I think people kind of forget that with YouTube views that they're algorithm driven, and in a lot of countries, the algo promotes your country's entry a lot. It's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I have anything to add. The Oh no, I am at the bottom. I was worried that the queue had jumped. If you're into the older editions, do you attribute the UK Ireland dominance in the 1990s primarily to the language rule? Not really. I think so. With respect to Ireland, who obviously had 4 victories in that decade, I think that those are among their best songs, period. Not so much Why Me, but like In Your Eyes. In Your Eyes isn't like, I think that there are better songs than In Your Eyes, but Neve Cavanagh really sells that performance. Rock and Roll Kids. I kind of thought like I thought I thought it was pleasant. And then I think Groot has it as one of his like favorite winners of all time, and like I was quite surprised by that. And then I listened to it again, and it's not one of my favorite winners of all time, but I can see like it definitely has like a really nice nostalgic feel to it, and it's a unique winner. We don't really have winners that are quite like that one. And then The Voice is their best song, period. So yeah, I that's what I attribute those victories to. And then the UK only has 1 victory, and it was Katrina and the Waves with a decent song, not as good as Walking on Sunshine, I have to say, but yeah, I mean it was a decent song, especially by UK standards. Has France been on a winning path for the past 5 years? I think that France has cemented themselves as a contender, but it's been quite here and there, right? Because as much as we've had Voila and Mon Amour, we've also had Fulen and Évidemment. Um, all four of those songs were appreciated by the fans. Some were heavy fan favorites. Um, in fact, I would say that like of the four, I feel like Mon Amour was kind of like the weaker fan favorite. Obviously, the results didn't translate exactly like that, and Mon Amour did very well in the show. But yeah, I think that France is definitely drawing attention, and I mean, if they win this year, I think that it will be deserved. But yeah, um, it could be that the win will be around the corner. Do you think Austria could win? I'm doubtful. I've always been doubtful. Excuse me. Let me take some water before I continue answering this question. I've always been doubtful, and really, what it comes down to is that firstly, there are going to be superficial comparisons made to the code, and I think the code overall as a song was a lot more dynamic. Um, Secondly, I am of the crowd that does not quite like JJ's falsetto. I can admire it for the incredible technique that it is, but it's a bit too overbearing for me. And then, yeah, I guess those are really just the two main points. But again, if they win, I'll be happy. I think Australia will return next year, but will Montenegro? I don't know. I mean, at least like apart from the controversies of Monte Song, it sounded like people were at least satisfied with the approach of it, and so maybe they won't bow out after this one time and then come back in 2028. Maybe they'll at least give it a second go. And also, like the song that won didn't go on to represent them, thank God in my book. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Um, who's going to do surprisingly poorly in the final, at least compared to the odds? Let's see. Um, I mean, I have a big question about Italy. Um, it's rare that we have a year where there isn't a lot of hype around Italy. And I mean, I understand why, but I think that it will get enough support for it to do decently, but it's not going to be the typical top 10 that we see. Um, but yeah, there isn't one that really jumps out as being like, oh yeah, this will do poorly. I mean, if you were to ask me about like who's going to be in the bottom five, I'll pull that up again. I think Iceland will be down there. I think I kind of hope that Malta's down there personally. I think San Marino will be down there. Um, hmm, honestly, yeah, I don't know the rest, and fortunately, I haven't committed to ever having to make a full ranking of predictions. Uh, I could really see Albania getting 12 from Greece and Croatia, for example, just based on Albanians there, especially with the lack of other countries in the region in the final. Good to know. Could there be a Rosalind situation among this year's songs? Generally speaking, I feel like we don't have a lot of modern entries. I mean, if it would be then if there would be one, then I would say Germany, and that would not necessarily be because it's putting on the best performance. But yeah, yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. Neil Era agrees with Bruce. Rock and Roll Kids, one of the best winners of all time. Weird guy. uh, in Your Eyes sounds like the 90s in 3 minutes. It's perfect. Yeah, well, There are a lot of entries. I mean, it is the 90s, so of course it would sound like the 90s, but yeah, it definitely has that like indie 90s, indie early 90s flavor to it. So yeah, I agree. Who are you rooting slash hoping to win? Albania. Albania is my favorite. A lot of people are saying that it's it's one of the most beloved songs by a lot of people. Um, it's staged very well. It would be a very different winner for us, and part of that also makes me think that it's part of that makes me think of it. Well, I really need to figure out what the sentence is. For that reason, I don't. It's hard for me to see it as a winner, but why not be hopeful for it anyway? And then maybe it will come bottom five. Who knows? I'd say it's kind of Ipidunk. It's co-authored by a pretty successful Ipidunk songwriter who has written for Bolaget, Staysman, etc. It was tagged as Ipa on Spotify and included in playlists. That's interesting. I mean, that's a depth of knowledge that I don't have. So yeah. Doja's Cat. I have to say that I would love to see Spain win. It would be a great song. It'd be great for a song like that to win that's sung in its native language. I mean, it's not like Spain is never sending songs in their native language. Um, Spain is one of those songs that I just don't feel is modern enough. They modernized it a bit, and I will give it to them. It is really catchy. The memes have been hilarious. Um, Melody is definitely a performer that steals your attention, but yeah, I don't think so. Ukrainian NB bisexual atheist. What's up? A lack of support for Italy is sad because their song this year has a lot of character compared to the typical Italian ballad. Not that those are bad. Yeah, I agree. I think that they've got like they've got an artist that is unique. He's not a Eurovision typical artist. He's bringing something that is very personal and very touching, I have to say, like when you consider what the song is. Um, yeah, I just don't think that it's. I would love to be proven wrong about this. I would love for it to do really, really well because I think that it would be in this year where I feel like we don't have a lot of really good quality music. I think that this would at least be, it would show, people who are more like singer-songwriter types that these style of songs can be appreciated. I thoroughly enjoyed the code personally, but what made it successful with the audience? I remember expecting it to score lower than Tout l'univers or La Forza. The performance, I would say, and I mean, like it was a very unique song. It definitely had all the cornerstones of a pop song, but it intermixed all these different genres. You had the drum and bass beat, you had the symphonic music, you had Nemo themselves switching from operatic falsetto to rapping. Like it was the right kind of Frankenstein of a song, and that is not easy to do. When we were watching the first semifinal, my partner who's back home, we were texting each other as we often do when the shows are happening live. And you know how after everyone performs, they play a little bit of like a little segment of the code that dun, 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 dun. And his text was, hearing the code in between every performance reminds me that all of these songs are significantly worse than the code. So yeah, I mean, I just think it's a strong song, and I think that unfortunately, some of the fallouts of last year kind of took away the song having its moments because after the show, so much of the discussion was about you know the controversies, the protests, the disqualification of Joost Klein, all these things. The various complaints from the delegations and the broadcasters, but yeah, I think it's a great winner personally. Do you think Denmark's qualification this year is the beginning of a trend for Denmark? I have to say that Denmark's selection, it was a substantial improvement from years before song wise. I think staging wise, they had some cool ideas, but it nothing quite came together. but song-wise, I think that they are on. If they continue in that direction, then they'll be in good hands. Here we are not interested in the final classification. The most important thing is to give a stage to our artists and our music. Love that. This is the most important thing for all artists who participate. And kind of going back to the point about, could there be a song this year that's the next Snap? That's kind of what you hope for, where it's like a song participates in this competition that there are so many elements of the scoring that seem so circumstantial, and if it happens to be successful otherwise, like, or be even more successful than commercially speaking than the songs in than it's placing in the actual score, then yeah, that just goes to show you that you don't have to win Eurovision to win Eurovision. Do you think the UK will ever send something not in English? They should send something in patois or with like a little bit of patois. But I think, unfortunately, for the segment of the British public that's really uptight, I think that they'll see that as too risky. Is Eurovision becoming too expensive to host for some countries? Well, we've been hosting it in some pretty wealthy countries so far for the last few years, so it's hard to say. I mean, the event is they have fully said that the event as it is currently is not sustainable. So in general, Eurovision is very expensive. But with that, ever since Turin, the economic report of each host city has been very positive. I think Turin even said that they got the money that they invested in Eurovision like tenfold. And not like the government themselves, but like when you take into consideration the boost to local businesses and all of that. So even if the immediate costs are quite a lot, they would definitely benefit the local economy. Maybe not the host broadcaster, but that's a different matter. Can Albania come top 5 in the jury? I'd like to believe so. Last year, I would have never guessed that Rim Tim Tagidim would have been third with the jury. And to this day, that surprises me quite a lot. So if that overly repetitive song can do it, then I think Albania can do it with something that is very different. BS also saying Albania has to win, best song. Hearing all of this like constant love for Albania is giving me a lot of encouragement. I think, I don't know, maybe this year isn't as open as we think. Who do you see as a potential jury surprise? As in, jury goes for it more than you'd expect. Pull up the list again. I mean, we were kind of talking about Albania in that regard. Just not the typical Eurovision jury. It's not the song that we would typically think of like really pulling in jury points. If the jury rallies around Poland, that would be hilarious to me. I like that. I'm pretty sure Poland is going to be very lopsided in favor of the televote, and it could make it into the top 10 for that reason. But maybe it will be also popular with the jury, and it will get like 5th. I don't know. But yeah. Do you think the EBU should lower the participation fee since so many broadcasters can't afford it? If you lower the participation fee, then the money has to come from somewhere else, and I assume that it would have to be from the Big Five. And so it really just comes down to, does the Big Five want to invest more, pay more into the contest than they already do? What makes you think Sweden will do well with the juries if juries don't watch odds? Sweden is hella catchy. It's performed well. And it's not just catchy. It's like the kind of infectious that is rare with songs. Granted, it does have a lot of novelty factor to it, and we tend to think of songs that have more of a novelty to them to not be appreciated as much by the juries. But I also think that Croatia last year, not the same kind of novelty factor, but it definitely was there, and it came third. So Yeah, I think it's possible. Are you hyped for Karya and Baby Lasagna performing their collab about dabbing tonight? No. I mean, I'm sure it might be fine, but and I really liked Karya's song. I was not a fan of the kind of bullshit drama that followed that show and seems so insignificant when compared to everything else that has happened in the contest. But good for them. Do you have a video about jury votes and a deep dive into them? I'd love to learn more about it. Yes, I do. I no, I'm not gonna pull time aside just to do that. But the video is called Eurovision's Power Struggle: Can It Be Fixed? And it was following the 2023 edition. Um, Now, I mean, as far as like the individual jury scores for specific songs, we only highlight uh, uh, Tattoo, Cha Cha Cha, and Amar Pelos Dois. But we do talk about how the system, how the scores are actually calculated, and some of the misconceptions about how they work. And we also talk about certain criticisms. We talk about how the show could possibly change if the EBU were ever to decide to shift the needle and give the televote more power, because a lot of people are still asking for that. And yeah, it covers a lot of territory, so hopefully you enjoy that. I'm quite proud of that video, and it seems that a lot of people liked it too. So yeah, I want more affordable countries to host. Yeah, you and me both. I'm traumatized by Turin, the broken sun, the dirty floor, the abysmal camera work. So like I get it. Turin technically had a lot of flaws. I think that if Italy were to win in the next few years, they will have learned from their mistakes, and they'll probably be more open to uh, you know making improvements the second time around. I mean, it is technically the fourth time around, but you know what I mean. Like it's only been before 2022, they hadn't hosted since the 90s, and Eurovision is just so different. So if they are to win sooner, I'm sure that all of the issues that happened in Turin will be fresh in people's minds, and they will make an effort to do better. What I do want to say about that as well, though, is that there is a different thinking to television in Italy, and if you watch Italian programming, um, they do like to improvise, and very little of it is scripted. I mean, I'm sure if you've seen Sanremo, then you know that is evident in that show. Like they have a script, but they're still running with it. They're having looser moments. This past edition was a bit more like strict to the schedule, and a lot of people had said that they found that it was missing a bit of warmth. But yeah, I mean, that is very different to the Swedish thinking of everything's got to be timed to a T. Which, I mean, in fairness, it's not just about Sweden. That's like, I guess, a lot of television in general. But when Sweden hosts, you definitely see that things are a lot tighter. And yeah, it is quite a contrast to Italy's programming in general, which tends to be looser. And so I think that maybe they would have to commit to being a bit more committed. They would Let me reword that. They would have to commit to being a bit more uh, efficient, and not depend so much on wow, the improvising. UK should send something in Welsh. Yeah, I mean, send anything that's not like another pop song that's like okay. Send something that is going to excite people, because we rarely see something that is exciting. It's always very middle of the ground, and middle of the ground, middle of the road, very middle of the road. And yeah, I think I need another coffee because my words are all over the place today. Um, I wonder if the EBU would be willing to host a sub 9,000 capacity venue again if a country without a big enough venue won, since they seem to be preferring small venues nowadays. Well, one thing about this year is that they compensated with that with the Arena Plus. So they've got, as far as like ticket sales go, they have a lot to cover for that. But as far as Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that if, let's say, I don't know what the biggest venue would be in Albania if Albania wins. Um, uh, but, there are certain countries where, you don't have anything that's larger than 6,000, 7,000. So yeah, I mean, those compensations have to happen. And in those countries that have smaller venues, I highly doubt that they would have the ability to make a temporary venue, unless it was kind of like what Denmark did in 2014. That was also very costly, and it would have to not necessarily be exactly what they did, but repurposing a space that's not necessarily an arena, maybe that would be an option for a country that does not have a large enough venue. Albania winner. Yeah. Let's just manifest it, okay? Let's manifest it, even if it ends up coming in 25th. Let's manifest it, Italian hosting was appalling in 1991 too. Oh, what do you mean? It was legendary. Yeah, it was a disaster, but I love that show. I mean, firstly, like the tie between Carola and Amina. Amina's song is like better by a country mile, to for lack of a better term, in my book. But like Carola's song was also fun. I would love to know what Eurovision would be like nowadays if our winner was, c'est le dernier qui a parlé, qui a raison. But that is not the future that we live in currently. Last minute guesses for top three tonight. Okay, let's just go for it. Albania, Sweden, Finland. There you go. No, okay, Albania, Sweden. I mean, I'll be happy if it is Finland, but let's say, let's throw in a weird one. I'm gonna throw in Denmark just because people are gonna be like, "What are you talking about?" Um, The Swiss singer is from 1991. Yes, I did know that. And we could have Sweden versus France for tonight. Oh yeah, that'd be really funny. Imagine if it's a tie again. That would be hilarious. I mean, ties are so from a statistical point of view, they're much less likely because there are just that many more points available. In 1991, it would have been like 19, 20, 21 countries voting and only with a single set of 12, whereas now it's 37 plus the rest of the world and then doubled with the jury votes. But yeah, that would be really funny. I am dying to see another tie someday, even though it's like so unlikely. Even if it's like not necessarily a tie, but if it's like by a few points, then that would be great. Couldn't the BBC find just one, up-and-coming grime rapper who isn't homophobic / misogynistic and give them massive international promotion via Eurovision? Yeah, that would be great. Definitely. Leila agreeing with me on Denmark. Maybe it will inspire them to try harder. Well, I mean, if they come third or second or whatever, I mean, it's still like it's such an out there prediction that I don't think it's going to happen. But that I think is going to be more of a signal to them that they're doing things right. And I mean, Denmark is also one of those countries where they theorize that the reasons they were doing poorly before is because 2014 was so costly to host, and they are purposely trying not to win. I don't know if I've ever agreed with that, but yeah. Do you suffer from post-Eurovision blues? I think I did the first year. One thing that does help when you do this kind of thing, excuse me, as in like videos about Eurovision and all that, is that you're not necessarily disconnected from it. You're not necessarily disconnected from the show, right? Last year, I think a lot of people were happy to just kind of move on, and for me, I think I'll also feel similarly this year. And we'll kind of talk about that at the very end of the video. But yeah, I'm not like it's not like how it was the very first year where like it happened and I was like, oh, wasn't that so much fun? Because that's when I think that was when I started looking back at older shows and really starting to dive into what the contest is and all of that. I don't see Finland in the top three, honestly, but a strong 4-6 placement. Yeah, that's I think more that's how I feel as well. Um, and so I think Switzerland, France, and Sweden. I can also see Israel buying themselves like third. Um, all right. Well, let's say this. In Israel's case, firstly, we know that the ad campaign is in full swing. That ad campaign is funded by Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Advertising Bureau. This specifically is a contradiction to the defense that the EBU has been using from the beginning, that the contest happens between broadcasters, not governments. Sure, the execution might be from the broadcaster, the publicly funded broadcaster, that if the government decided to at any point could pull funding from. But the government, through other agencies, is doing what they can to bolster the score as much as possible, to the point where I have already seen people gloating about not being interested in Eurovision, but specifically voting for Israel to spite the audience. And that is so against the spirit of the contest, to mobilize people who do not, like to mobilize people who are bad faith actors so that you can put forward this idea that the world supports Israel. Appalling, truly appalling. And yes, that could pay off for them big time, because when you also consider the fact that the survival story of their artist has been front and center this whole time, and I'm not so insensitive that I can't realize that that would have been very terrifying and deeply traumatizing for anyone. It does not make a difference, because Israel should not be in this contest while it is wiping Palestinians off the planet. It should not happen. So yeah, it could pay off, and the combination of that story, people might feel that that's enough for them to support Israel and give them a vote. I'm sure that there are also people in the midst of this that also genuinely like the song, but it is a massive, massive slight to everyone who believes in the messaging that this contest puts forward, but seems to be unable to actually act on. So yeah, that's my little rant. I think I am gonna answer a few more questions. Earlier, if I don't know if you weren't tuned in from the beginning, I do have some links that I want to share. I did not plan this through properly, unfortunately, but I would like for everybody who is watching the show today to at least find someone who is in Gaza, find their social media accounts, and just bear witness to what they're going through right now. Because uh, as much as we can, there is space for us to have empathy and to recognize the horrors that people went through on October 7th. But what about every day since then? Why can't we have the empathy for those people? So please, if you are tuning into Eurovision today, please observe what's happening in Gaza and the West Bank, because this does not need to happen, and it is preventable deaths, and we could be doing so much more to end this. Yeah, I don't think there's really anywhere else to go from there. Thank you all for joining me. I know this isn't necessarily the note that a typical Eurovision live stream would end on, but I feel like it's important to say. It frustrates me so much that there are so few ways to express sympathy and empathy with what's happening to Palestinians, and we are continually told to focus on October 7th as if nothing that happened before then or after then matters. So I felt it was necessary to say. With regards to the contests, I'm hoping that we get I'm hoping that we get a good result for everyone else that's participating. I'm hoping that by the end of it, that you know every artist that's participated this year finds their audience. And yeah, I'll leave it there. I'm not going to bother asking for subscriptions or anything, but right after this ends, I'm going to put the links that I want to share in the comment section. So just some examples of journalists, everyday people. There's one account that's called Gaza Medic Voices, telling truly horrific stories of what the people who are there, who are so necessary to save lives, bringing desperately needed healthcare to these people, all the horrors that they've been going through. Please bear witness to them. It's the least we can do. It really is. So I'll leave it there. And yeah, take care.